bus stop and train stations, waiting for me to come home while I was out with friends, while I was out sleeping on Venice Beach under lifeguard towers.
Yes, go ahead.
I also recall doing things that I would never do again because I was in a bad behavior place, right? I was misbehaving. Well, time went by. Eventually, I graduated from high school, and my high school graduation wasn't the typical go walk the stage and things like that. It was to go and get high with my friends. Then I started Los Angeles City College. My first semester, straight A's, but not doing the greatest behavior-wise. My second semester was a complete disaster. So I drop out because I said I don't want to harm and damage my academic progress. So I drop out. I try to get my life together. I don't. At that point, my mom had met another man. She had another daughter. We had gotten kicked out several times and evicted from different places that we were renting. And eventually, her partner at the time moved to Lynn, Massachusetts. And then my mom came to live over here. Now, at this point, I was working with my uncle. One day I'm working, and all of a sudden I see my mom appear with my two sisters. One in her arms, who she had with her second partner, and the other who was already 13 by this point. They get to my uncle's shop and they say, hey, we're leaving to Boston today. Boston, Massachusetts. And I'm like, oh my gosh, why? What's going on? Oh, just because we're going to go live with my mom's partner. Okay, well, I'm not going. I'm staying in Los Angeles. The last time that I saw my mom with my physical eyes, I was under the influence. I took her to a Greyhound station, which is a bus transportation here in the U.S. My mom was crying. My little sister, who was still in her arms, was crying because she didn't know what was going on. And my 13-year-old sister was crying. But I was excited for them to leave because if I was already out of control under my mom's supervision, I was definitely going to go all out under no one's supervision. Well, that was the last time I saw my mom with my physical eyes. Now, mind you, I was born healthy. I was not born blind. I am currently completely blind, but at the time, I was fine. Never needed glasses, never had eye issues, nothing. Okay. She leaves. Well, I go live with gang members. There was a gang in downtown Los Angeles near an area called Koreatown. There's a border where there's three gangs. MS-13, which is originally a Salvadorian gang, 18th Street, which is also a Central American gang, and Playboys gang, which is a Latin gang primarily in Koreatown. Well, I go live with a Playboys gang member. And while living there, there was a lot of prostitutes and strippers that would come in, a lot of drugs and guns would come in. Very crazy things happened there. I remember seeing people coming in that were bruised up, beaten up, and bloody from their faces. I remember people coming in that would have just stolen either from someone or from a car. I remember people coming in with drugs, with guns. I remember girls coming into the apartment offering me sex for drugs. And I would always reject that because I never liked stuff like that. But that's where I was living. And there's an old saying, it's all fun and games until someone gets hurt. Well, somebody definitely got hurt. I remember one night I had gone out with a friend. I was getting home late after dropping her off. I was on my bike. And when I get maybe around a quarter mile away from my house, there are several police officers. The entire street is shut down with police officers. Now, at this point, I don't know what's going on. So I go around a few blocks. I get to the front of my apartment, and then I realize I forgot my keys. And then across the street was a group of guys that the gang member that I lived with used to hang out with. And they're like, hey, homeboy, come here, come through. I'm like, oh, man, these guys are going to start messing with me. Like, man. So I go across the street. I'm like, what's up? They're like, hey, what's your homeboy's name? I'm like, oh, what do you mean? They're like, yeah, what's his real name? I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't know. I just know him as Joker. Oh, really? You know what happened to your boy, right? And I'm like, I honestly have no idea. He said, he got shot. Like, what? Yeah. It was really hard for me to believe because he was always pretty careful for the most part. Well, I don't have anywhere to go that night. I don't have keys. My phone is, it's working, but no one's answering my calls. So I go to another friend's house. It was a few blocks away. And he's asleep. So I end up passing out on his porch because it was so late and I was really tired. Well, the next day, I go back home and my friend is there. Not the one that got shot, but a second friend that lives with us. And the girlfriend of the guy that got shot. When I go in, they tell me, yeah, man. So they told me what happened. Basically, my friend, who we call Joker, he got shot 9 times in the stomach. All the bullets went through his front and out his back. One of his kidneys got shot. Most of the bullets hit his spinal cord. He ended up paralyzed waist down for the rest of his life. And the reason that his own gang wanted to look for him is because they wanted to kill him. What process are you going through right now? What process are you going through that you're finding challenging? Everybody goes through a process. We all go through processes in life, some more difficult than others. But there are processes that hold a purpose to them. There are processes that scaffold you into your purpose. But there's also those processes that can hinder you from your purpose. There's processes in life that will try to stop you from getting to where God wants you to be. Point number 2, perseverance. We all go through processes in life. But there's one thing that connects us, perseverance. We all need it. Every single one of you has had to have perseverance to get to where you are today. Whether it was through challenges, relationships, whatever the case may have been. We all have struggled. So, we can no longer afford the rent. One friend goes to live with his dad. My friend that got shot goes to live with his mom. And I have nowhere to go. So I end up homeless. Now, when I say homeless, I'm sure a lot of folks say homeless. I've been homeless before. Let me tell you something, especially for those young folks. When you run away from home, that's not homeless. You have a home to go to. You just chose not to go. Homeless is, I have a shopping cart full of my stuff. I don't know where to put it. And I don't know where to go to sleep so that while I'm asleep, nobody steals it. Homeless is, I need to know where the fruit trees in my neighborhood are so I don't starve to death. I need to know where the restaurants that give away food are at the end of the night so I don't starve. Homeless is, I need to find a place to sleep tonight so I don't get robbed while I'm sleeping, so I don't get stabbed while I'm sleeping. Funny enough, I always had some form of substance like alcohol, but never had money. I remember going up to a gentleman once and I telling him, excuse me, do you have change for what? For food. He looks at me. It was this tall African guy. He looks at me and puts his hand on my shoulder. He's like, let me tell you something. And he gives me $5. I believe it was $5. And he looks at me and he says, let me tell you something, man. You don't need to change. You need to change your life. and I look at the dollar and I look at him, and I felt such a powerful conviction. And he walks away and gets on a bus. And I'm just stuck there in awe. Like, what just happened? Well, that moment was very, very significant because that would happen a lot. It's funny how God will send people in our direction to try to help us and reach out to us. But very few times do we actually listen to people. Very few times do we actually try to listen and hear out those that God is sending to help us. Then my uncle tells me, if you want to live in my garage, you need to start going to church. I said, church? Man, I don't want to go to no stinking church. I had just gotten an upside down cross tattoo on my chest. The last thing I wanted was to go to church. I was very like atheist, anti-Christ, punk rocker, you know? I remember sleeping on the bus stops and train stations. I remember sleeping on benches at the beach with a lock while wearing my backpack and locking my bike to the strap, the shoulder strap of my backpack, so that nobody steals my bike while I'm sleeping. Well, eventually I give in. You know, I went to 12-step, I went to Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, all the anonymous, right? The AA, the NAs, all the A's. I went to jail overnight, into that holding cell. I was homeless. Still, I was refusing to change. And he looked at me, he's like, look, I want you to call this guy. His name is Lewis. He's a church leader. And tell him that you're interested. Okay. I call. Hey, what's up, bro? I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy's way too much full of energy. Hey, check it out, bro. Look, I'm going to pick you up. I'll take you to church. We'll go eat. And I'll take you back home. I'm like, first of all, no guy has ever offered to pick me up. Second of all, I've never gone to eat one-on-one with a guy. And third of all, this guy's really cringy, you know? Well, I'm like, okay, I tried everything. I might as well try. We go eat. We get to the church. I remember still looking in front of the church. Beautiful girls in the front. You know, at the time I was 20 years old. All these really beautiful girls in the front. I'm like, okay. And this was youth night. It was at 7 p.m. Okay, I think I like this. And I go up to them and I try to give them a hug and they're like, hey, bro, what's up? And they shake my hand. I'm like, okay, never mind then. Then I go through the foyer into the second door. At the second door, there's all guys. I try to shake their hand and then they're hugging me. I'm like, okay, I'm not really digging this. The girls don't hug you, but the guys do. The girls only shake your hands, but the guys only want to hug you. And then you just hear the bass. There's smoke coming out of the building. There's a smoke machine going off, lasers and lights going off everywhere. There's like club music, but it all has Christian lyrics. I remember Lecrae was really like getting on fire during that time. I'm like, man, what is going on here? I remember sitting. I always liked sitting in the front. I remember sitting in the front next to a leader. And I'm looking. And the pastor says, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but have everlasting life. And I stare at Pastor Scott. And he said, if you want to change your life today, come to the front. I don't even think about it. I walk straight to the front. And he looks at me and he looks at other folks that are in the front and he says, ask God for something. Okay. Now, mind you, the last time I ever think I could last remember at that point trying to pray. No, yes, I grew up in a Catholic church. Yes, I grew up, doing the whole first communion and all of these things, baptized as a baby. But I never had a relationship. I had religion. I wasn't a church goer every week, but I didn't have a relationship. The last time I remember praying was when I was living at that apartment with a gang member, when I was overdosing, looking out my window, at a cross on top of a Catholic church saying, God, whatever you do, please don't